Alright, so while I'm setting up everything, making sure everything looks good. How is everyone today? Thank you for coming to my lesson, and it took me 5 minutes to set up everything. Make sure everything's good. Welcome to everyone who joined my class. Today we will be learning about the third conditional. So let me see. Ari said, I'm on my phone, so I can turn on the microphone. That's alright, don't worry about it, Ari. There's no homework to make me join late. That's alright. Same here, Mariana. The circled exercises are the ones that we are supposed to do in this lesson. I understand till now that EC stands for extra credit. That's excellent, yes. Just like you guys said, the circled one is what we're expected to do for the lesson. And since I looked through them earlier, I decided we might have to use our Friday to continue half of the lesson because realistically, a lot of the activities do take a lot of time. So whatever we don't finish, we'll finish on Friday. Then that means on next week, you guys have a special new lesson ahead of you. And number two, since for you guys who have arrived to class early, I do have some important announcement to make before we start our third conditional lesson. The first one is I will be providing another new activity for the pronunciation activities. It used to be called the read and listening portion, but I thought about it and I'm like, okay, maybe we can do something else for that name because usually you guys are just reading a prompt and you're responding, so that's technically pronunciation classroom. So I'll keep it as that. I'm not deleting anything. I just changed the name. Since we do have a book host club now, a book host club. No, book club. There you go. Why am I saying book host club? So book club, since we already have one established and it's being run by Geneva, she will be the one taking over for those listening perhaps and also writing, I suppose. I'll be there to help her along the way as well. But let me just get straight to the point before I run off topic. I'm deciding to add more activities hopefully by next week. So on top of your challenge, which is your 30-day responding challenge, by the end of every week, I will be providing you guys a question. So start of the week, sorry. At the start of every week, I will give you guys a question. I will read you the question. Okay? There's no written document. I will read it to you. What this will do is it will help you guys train your ears on listening in English. You are expected to write a response, number one paragraph, which is 5 to 8 sentences. That's all. And then what you will do is you'll type it. Then you will also read it out loud. So provide two files. Give me the document, so it can be a picture or it can be typed out in the chat room. It can be a document itself, and then I need you to also provide the audio of you reading it out loud to me. So by doing so, I'm testing all of your skills in English. So this should help you reinforce your learning as well. Number two, expect your papers to be graded back a little bit late, mainly because since I'm the only one who's going to be reading each one, I will be giving you feedback on how you write, your grammar. So in that sense, it's an activity where it's helping you prepare yourself, become more of a native speaker. So if you guys are interested in those, I will definitely do that. No pressure if you don't want to do it, but this is just for extra practice. I'll provide a prompt and a question every Sunday. So, and then it's due Saturday. So before the next refresher date. Cool. So that should help you guys reinforce your English learning. All right, so now, does anyone have anything you'd like to add? I see Mariana said she likes the idea a lot. I'm glad, because I really want you guys to have the best activity possible that'll reinforce what you're learning and reinforce why you're motivated to learn English. For other educators, hopefully if don't know what you're talking about, it's okay, Makana, don't worry about it. So I'll reiterate just briefly in a couple sentences or two. I'll probably need extra hands, so definitely it'll be educators only, and I'm sorry, activities hosts, I know I want you guys to help me as well, but this is because I need you to have really good English at this level so we can help each other in that sense. So at a certain point, I will allow activities hosts to also be correctors eventually. If I see that they're at that level where I think you know what you're doing with your English and how to teach grammar, then you're more than welcome to correct as well. But for the time being, I'll just keep it exclusively for just educators. Um, so, Makana, what I said was starting next Sunday, I will be providing a question for you vocally, not written, in the production, it's not the production, in the pronunciation practice. What you will do is write a paragraph answering the question and also provide your voice, you speaking it on top of that. So when you do that, I will listen and I will also read. I will also provide you two feedbacks. How you speak is one. The second one is how you use grammar correctly or incorrectly in your writing. Because after all, you speaking and you writing is two different paths in conversation, and grammar is a little bit more rigorous than it is speaking, right? So, without further ado, I'm sorry in advance. I don't mean to hurt you with my criticism in the future. I'm gonna do my best and not say it in a way where it's offensive. It's more, I'll say it in a phrase where you can build up your experience and what you can do to improve yourself on top of that. Yeah. You're a bit scared, but I got it. Okay, don't worry about it too much. You guys are also more than welcome to listen to each other's audio. So if you submit it, you can read each other's. You can also communicate with each other. In the pronunciation, you're welcome to have a conversation there too. It's just, it might be hard for me to scroll up and look for people. So if I miss yours by accident, I'm sorry. But it will take me some time to just sit down and correct each one's. So you have like literally 7 days to just get it done for the week, and then we'll move on to another topic. All right, so now we can move on to our next idea, or our lesson plan now. We're looking at third conditionals. So let me go ahead and share screen here just to make sure everyone can see that. Okay, so you're welcome to join my share screen, live, whatever. Just making sure everyone's there. Okay. So now we are gonna discuss a bit about third conditionals, and now that I have everyone's attention, the document I sent you already has like a blueprint on it. So if you notice, I marked up things, I made circles. For some reason, it didn't happen to me. I don't know what happened, but the blueprint just suddenly disappeared. So I guess I have to open another window just in case. Here it is. Right? Yeah, okay. So I'll use it as a reference so I know that we are on the right track. So let's go ahead and start with the grammar notes, and then we'll address what's happening on the document. So whatever circled is what will be expected to cover for class. Anything with EC means extra credit, so you can submit your answers in the extra credit section. I'll provide answers for the educators who are grading it. And then you'll expect your score soon, so you get to see that. Alright, so now we are moving on to grammar notes for third conditional. So introduction to conditionals. Conditionals are used to express a hypothetical situation. This is when you don't know if something will happen or not, so you make a guess about what the results might be. There are 4 conditionals, so don't let the number 4 confuse you. We're actually starting with 0, not number 1. It's a pattern in the English language, and they usually involve an if clause. The lesson will focus on the third conditional, also known as the past conditional. So we have your form here, your formula. I'm gonna call it the formula because if you know your math as well, there's always a formula for everything. There's a pattern. Maybe if you want to call it that too, that's okay. So you have your if plus had. This one won't change whether it's plural or singular. It will always be had. So I'm assuming this P and P here means preposition. Would plus have plus preposition, I suppose. Or past perfect, depending on which one. So use the third conditional expresses a past regret or show a different outcome. Past regret that would have happened if a certain condition had been met. So it's kind of like, remember, second conditional is what are the chances of it happening, and it's extremely low. This one is more like I'm reflecting about the past, and I will use this if statement. So, like, for example, of a realistic situation, if only I hadn't been sick during my third semester and missed a lot of classes, I would have straight A's right now. So that would be an example of third conditional, because it is a real event that happened and it's something you wish you could fix, but you can't do anything about it. So I would also call the third one the wishy-washy. The wishy-washy, just call it the wishy-washy, because you're reflecting about your past, that there's nothing you can actually do about it. You just wish you could have done it differently. So, need help remembering the third conditional pattern? Think of it like this. The verb is the if clause if a past perfect verb, which is had. The past participle form of the verb. I see. So PNP means past participle. So let me write a note of that. And this thing still has really weird... Okay, whatever. I cannot write when it's small, so past participle. It has to be big, I'm sorry. Participle. Okay, so it's a past participle. And then have, well, the verb in the main clause follows the past modal verb. Modal is have here, so this one's the modal. And I still don't like the stupid thing here. Have the past participle form of the verb. Okay. So in either case, both of these are past participles, right? I'm reading the conversation. John, I'm eating popcorn right now, so my brain is a little confused. I'm in a classroom or watching an educational movie. Both? You're watching both. I guess you could say. So, here, if I had arrived on time, no one would have stared at me as I walked in. So condition, not arriving on time. Outcome, people staring at me. Explanation, I was late and everyone stared at me as I walked in. So that's basically the overview. If you had brought your jacket, you would not have been so cold last night. You would not have been so cold last night if you had brought your jacket. So if you guys notice, you're kind of doing the switcheroo here. You got your if statement. Please remember that there's a comma here. So anytime there's if at the front, there's going to be a comma. Then your next phrase here, the indicator here is a modal. Modal. This is like a comedy for you, huh? John, seeing all of these like wonky writing. So here, would is your modal. Would not have been so cold last night. You would not have been so cold last night if you had brought your jacket. So assuming from last week, or last week's lesson, you guys did an excellent job. So I think you guys know how to switch them properly if needed. So of course your condition is not bringing a jacket. The outcome is you're cold. And explanations, you were cold because you didn't bring a jacket last night. So you have more examples. You have, if they had not missed the bus, they would have gotten to work on time. So condition, missing the bus. The outcome is not arriving on time. Explanation, they missed the bus and were late for work. So I'm just going to go over these very quickly since you guys basically got the whole picture. Next one, if Andrew had not broken his leg, he would not have missed the dance. So the problem here is that he broke his leg. So the outcome is he missed the dance. He missed the dance because he broke his leg. Next one, if I had remembered your birthday, I would have bought you a present. I would have bought you a present if I'd remembered your birthday. You know, I kind of want to make a side comment here. If a boyfriend forgets his girlfriend's birthday, that's terrible. Like, that's really sad. And same vice versa, if a girlfriend forgot her boyfriend's birthday. I'm hinting this because my birthday's next month. So, yeah. So don't forget anyone's birthday. It makes them feel sad. So, forgetting a birthday, not buying a present. I didn't buy you a present because I forgot your birthday. Like, that's honestly the worst explanation ever. You go to them and you're like, I'm so sorry. I thought we scheduled today. I forgot it's your birthday. Well, you can't really. You're in a hole, so you're just gonna bury yourself deeper. So don't even try anymore. You know. Vice versa is my problem. Aw. Here we go. If Maya hadn't caught a cold, she would have come over after school. So the result here, well, actually not the result, they call it the condition, is Maya caught a cold. So the result is she can't come over. So she didn't come over because she was sick. So pretty much self-explanatory. Note 1. Some verbs have more than one acceptable past participle form. For example, the past participle of get can be gotten or got, so you got two of them there. Gotten is more common gotten is more common in North America, and got is more common in the UK. So I've gotten sick I've got sick. Yeah, that makes sense. So yes, we do use gotten more often because I would say this phrase, I've gotten, and you cannot spell this, I've gotten this stupid loop thingy, I've gotten sick. Okay, so I think it only works if I'm writing big letters. So here, I've gotten sick. So that means it's a past participle. So let me explain to you guys briefly what past participle means. There's a past tense for everything, right? So you've got the simple past, but the moment you see the word have, so here, this is I have. So the moment you see have, whatever here is past tense becomes a past participle because it's triggered by have. So there's a lot of examples of these. I can't think of more than this one at the top of my head right now. So gotten is a past participle, whereas get is the past tense. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's a little bit complicated. For me, I don't even think about it anymore and I forget. So past participles only exist if there is have. I don't know if I can say if it's a modal words overall. I would have gotten over. Yeah. Actually, it might even be modals. So not just have. It could be other modals like I would. Like I would have gotten over him if he just blah 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 blah, for example. So that can work. So I think it's just modals in general. So if a modal is present, then you can use past participle. So here, I'll just write a note. It's modal. Modal. So how many contractions are possible at one time? In general, one contraction is fine, or both speaking and writing, but a double contraction is not used in writing or formal speaking, though it is sometimes used in informal speaking. So, big word here, speaking. Why did I cross it out? That's the question. It's because I have a fat marker. I'm sorry, you guys. So, informal speaking, and that is really tiny. I'll never be satisfied with this. Also note that would have sounds like I would have, but would have is never correct, right? So this is what you hear, would have, but it's actually would have with this one. It's only because when we say it quickly, we say would have, and it sounds like that. So it's just the sounding, but the spelling is different. So I would have bought, I'd have bought, not I'd have. No one uses I'd have. Like, that's really weird. I'd have bought, use in informal speaking only. I agree with that, but never in writing because I would never see that. So I would have bought. This one is never used. So this is correct. These ones here, you would hear it in speaking only. Only because we say it so quickly, it sounds like it. But in writing, never. Don't ever use them. So another one, I think they'll talk about it, maybe it might be note 3 or 4. Woulda is something we use in speaking only, but never spelled out on grammar. Like, I would have told you. Instead of I would have told you, we say I would have told you. So I don't dare to pronounce I'd have, since I'd probably summon a demon. Yeah, you probably would. And he'd probably tell you, why would you do this to me? And then go back down. So tip number 1 for third conditional. A sentence can begin with either the if clause or the main clause with no change in meaning. Remember that a sentence begins with an if clause if followed by a comma. If they had prepared for their preparation or presentation, they wouldn't have received such a bad score. They wouldn't have received such a bad score if they had prepared for their presentation. Tip number 2. Because the third conditional is often used to express regrets, negative verbs are common in the main clause. If I had been on if I had been on time more often, I wouldn't have been fired. If my neighbor had lent me his lawnmower, I wouldn't have had to buy one. I would never have been able to go to your party if you hadn't spoken to my parents. And tip three, when speaking quickly, would have sounds like woulda, which is what I just explained. Note that we can say and never write woulda. Listen to the recording and repeat the following sentences. If I hadn't bought insurance, I would have been in trouble. I would have gone to the party if I had been invited. If she had received your email, she would have replied. So do you see the way I say it? So they don't have a recording there. Does it even work to begin with? Probably not. Let me see. I'm curious now. No, it doesn't work. So I guess you can use me as the example. So notice my speech. That I say it very quickly sounds like woulda instead of would have. This is sad he wasn't invited. Yeah, that's actually pretty sad. Yeah, I would have gone to the party if I hadn't been invited. Yeah, I feel him. That's like FOMO right there. So kind of off topic, if you guys know what FOMO stands for. It's a slang term we use. It means fear of missing out. Like not being at the present event when there's something happening. That's called FOMO. Fear of missing out. So tip number 4 in the main clause would have contract to apostrophe D with subjects that are pronouns. Also would have can contract to would have and would not can contract to wouldn't with any subject. Likewise, if the if clause or in the if clause had can contract to apostrophe D with the subject that are pronouns and had not can contract to hadn't with any subject. If she hadn't left her keys in the car, she'd have been on time to pick me up. I wouldn't have had to cancel our plans if my son hadn't gotten sick. I would have gotten the invite on time if I'd answered the phone. If we hadn't stopped for gas, we wouldn't beaten the train. So, another thing to explain for you guys, there's actually a key here that I'm looking at while reading this out loud to you. Notice that when they have the apostrophe here, if she hadn't left her keys in the car, she'd have me on time. So there's the presence of had here. She had have been on time to pick me up. Hadn't here, up here, had not. What I see from these two is that there's going to be consistency of you reusing the same auxiliary or modal. So notice here she said she had, which is apostrophe D means had here. Wouldn't, I wouldn't have had to cancel our plans if my son hadn't gotten sick. Never mind. I was trying to say something here, but it doesn't work out, so sorry. Ignore that. I thought I was gonna see, I saw a pattern there, but there's no pattern. Makana said this is, oh, don't got it. Can you explain again what's fear of missing out? So, fear of missing out, which is represented as FOMO, FOMO. So, if you say, do you have FOMO, is what people would say, or like, are you FOMO? Basically means, do you have a fear of missing out? That means, are you afraid that if you keep yourself busy, you'll miss out on the greater joys of life? Like, for example, your friend throws a party, but at the same time, you have work at that time. So are you afraid to miss that party because you're working? That's what it means to be FOMO, right? So a lot of people, like, I guess it's kind of popular in thought right now because everyone in my generation right now, like, we're all mid-20s, etc. We're all like, we just literally graduated, I guess a decade ago. Oh no, yeah, that's actually crazy. We graduated almost half a decade ago. So a lot of us are already finished with our degrees in university, etc., right? So everyone's looking for a job now. And like, just like hearing and seeing people, like our friends are meeting up and they're hanging out while here I am doing work right now. It makes me feel like a sense of FOMO because I'm not there. Like, they're having fun. I'm here working, you know? So that's kind of the whole concept behind FOMO. So it makes more sense, like, as you grow up, because when you're younger, you have more free time. Older, you have to decide how you use your time wisely. So that's kind of like the whole basis behind it. Moving on to tip number 5. Could or might can replace would in the main clause to indicate possibility. For contractions, could have is common, but might have is not. So they could, might, or they could, they could have made it to my party if they had stopped to ask for directions, or they might have made it to my party if they had stopped to ask for my directions. If I'd finished reading the book, I could have helped you write your book report. So could or might can replace would, but in the main clause to indicate possibility. For contractions, could have is common but not might have. Verbally speaking, might have is accepted, I would say. I have heard people say might have, but I think in grammar wise, when you're writing it, not very common. Tip number 6, it is possible to combine tenses with the same sentence if the situation calls for it. For example, a past regret in the if clause can affect something in the present. If he hadn't forgotten to call me last night, I wouldn't be so angry today. Anyone in a relationship can relate? Yeah? I can relate to this so much. You would feel better about the present situation if you had heard about it from her last week. So that's that. So again, combined tenses, you can use past tense as what if situation, and it can affect the present at this very moment. So that's that. Let me read Makana. Sorry, thanks to my internet connection, I lost half of what she answered me, but I guess I got it. No, it's okay, Makana, don't worry. So I'll summarize quickly what I said. I just said basically if you are around your mid-20s and you just finished and graduated, so you're establishing your career in the real world, right? So it's really hard for friends to meet up nowadays, especially if you're working and your schedules don't work out. So there's this fear of missing out, that you're seeing your friends are getting together and you're not there. So that's the idea of FOMO. So that's about it. All right. So now it's your guys' turn. Go ahead and do exercise 1. And go ahead and post the answers to the classroom here when you're ready. So answers 1 through 10. Don't forget to use your spoilers. And then just provide the letter. Please don't write the full sentence. And then let's see if we can do exercise 2 and then exercise 5 for today. And that should be it and then we should be done. Okay, all right, excellent, everyone. I think I'm just waiting on Jean. Take your time answering. Do you want me to keep waiting for you, or you're good? Oh, there you go. Awesome. Okay, so excellent job for everyone. Interestingly, I saw a lot there. I saw like a pattern that everyone had a hard time figuring out what C is. All right, so I think that's everyone's submission for their answer. So for exercise number 1, the answers should be here. Number 1 is C. If you hadn't lent me the money, I wouldn't have bought you the ticket. Number 2 is A. I wouldn't have stayed at the hotel at that hotel if you hadn't recommended it to me. 3 is C. She would have been hurt in the car accident if she hadn't worn her seatbelt. 4 is A. If you had asked me, I would have helped you. 5 is C. If I hadn't taken my umbrella, I would have gotten very wet. 6, everyone's having a hard time here, so let me help. You guys see this? I would have been very disappointed if you hadn't come with us. So the answer is C. So I would have been. So this is the auxiliary. Modal. Have is another auxiliary here. Been. So this one is like a present perfect continuous. Or past perfect continuous because you're starting with would. This is past tense. I've been very disappointed if you hadn't come with us. So, wanting to make sure. Just wanted to make sure why the answer is come, not came. If you hadn't came with us. So, I would be very disappointed in you if you hadn't came with us. So let me explain first more in the way it sounds and the way that the meaning it says behind it. If you use the word came, this is the past, right? And according to rule, it did say use past participle. However, this one is applying to tip number 6. This is the combined tenses. So you can't really tell if it's present or past tense, but because I'm a native speaker and like me looking at this, I can see why. It's because when you use the word came here, it sounds like the action has already been completed. So I would have been very disappointed in you. I would have been very disappointed if you hadn't came with us. That means it's already been done in the past. But this is actually talking about in the present tense. How do I know this? Because I would have been very disappointed if you hadn't come with us. This is a phrase we do say in present tense because what's happening in the present is they're already on the way to the event. And this person is saying it to them in the middle of that event that's happening. So in this statement, it's not even completed in the past yet. This is ongoing. Don't be tricked because the word here disappointed. That's not a verb. That also does not indicate that this is past tense, by the way, because disappointed is an emotion, right? So emotions are articles. Or sorry, not articles. They're adjectives. There you go. So disappointed is classified as an adjective. You're describing your emotions. So if you are looking carefully here, this is the past tense because of the third rule for the third conditional. But look at these two. Look at these two, for the most part. It looks more like it's in present tense. Would have been. Would is modal. Have would have been is also modal too, but it's also the main verb. So have is present tense. I would have been very disappointed in you if you hadn't come with us. So this is present tense. So there's a little bit of that hint there. I just want to make sure, did my explanation come off clear to you guys, or are you even more confused? Any questions? So I see Jean is typing. So Jean, what's interesting is you are the only one who got C correct for that. Yeah, kind of confused, but I think it's okay. LOL. So again, let me reiterate. What is the indicator for this being like, remember, this is past tense. So the third conditional, it's written in the past. So we can see it right here. The pattern, would. Here, there's your pattern, would. That's where it is for the third conditional. And then the next phrase here is have. And here, they wrote past perfect, past participle. Doesn't really work for it because there's a contradiction only because on tip number 6, which is the combined tense, that is the only contradicting factor to it. Whatever happens after have can be past tense or it can be present tense. So, and in this situation, you kind of have to apply it in real life situation. I would have been very disappointed in you if you hadn't come with us is correct because it's in the process of the event that's happening. So it's still in the present. There's nothing in that sentence that indicates that it is past tense. Don't be thrown off just because would is there, because would is one of the formulas to show that this is a third condition. Disappointed is not a verb, it's an adjective. It's a state of being, so that's not a verb. So if you look at everything else, there's no past tense indicated via verb. And if anything, have is the main verb here. So as a result, that's in present. So what happens to your answer? It's going to be in the present, not past tense. You got it? Cool. So you can see here, have is actually your main verb. All right, so continuing on, number 7 is B, which is if Maya hadn't been in such a hurry, she wouldn't have driven through a red light. 8 is B. If Jin hadn't applied for the job when he did, he, was it B, wouldn't have been able to work here. 9 is A. Zara would have called me back if her phone hadn't died. And 10 is C. They would have had a nice night if it hadn't rained. So this is applying for tip number 6 again, which is the combined one. Like they would have had a nice night, a nice evening if it hadn't rained, etc. So it's still combined like past and present here. So I know this is the one that throws everyone off, including myself, because I'm like thinking, are they writing this in present or past? Like that's always my question. So excellent job for everyone. Go ahead and do exercise 2, which is fill in the blank. Go ahead and fill these parts in. And then provide your answers when you're ready. I think, yeah. So 1 to 9 for exercise 2. And then we have one more activity after this, and then we'll call it a day. The last one will be exercise 5, which will take some time. Awesome. So you guys are totally getting this. I know it's kind of rough at the beginning because it's kind of identifying where do you put have. So wherever there's have, the next verb that follows it is going to be in the past participle form. So far, Mariana, you got perfect score. Excellent job. Everyone else is showing an excellent job in understanding where their errors are and also correcting it. So number one, Jean, correct. That's like half of it. Yes. So your first one, yes, that's it. Yeah, that's the only one. That would have been your correction. So everything else in yours, John, is perfect score too, since you corrected yourself. Makana, you're totally getting it, so please don't worry. Yes, at the beginning it was confusing, but you're showing to me that you really know what you're doing, so you're good. I think that's everyone's answer, so I'm gonna let Makana type. And then John is already done, Mariana, and then Ari's done too. So Ari, like I noted as well, it's just why there's so many errors is only because the verb is not written in its past participle form, but you have placed the word have in the correct places. Okay, so I think Makana wants to correct all of his errors, I'm assuming, or he has another comment. With that being said, I'll go over the answers right now, so you don't have to worry too much about it. So number one, I see Makana's correcting himself too. 5, 6, 7. Excellent. So you totally got it. There you go. So that's perfect score, Makana. So your corrections there, excellent. So now you totally got the pattern. So that's good. You have good gumption, and I admire that. Gumption is such an old word. That means you're very persistent and you really want to get this done. That's gumption. It's a very positive word, but old. No one really uses it. One, Kevin has caught the bus on time, but if he had missed it, he would have been late for his appointment. If you wrote would have, that's perfectly fine too. Number two, Juan didn't write to me when he was on vacation, but if he had known my address, he would have. If he had known my address, he would have sent me a postcard. So the spelling here is different. So sent with a T at the end. This one you just add the N for known for past tense. Past participle tense. Because know is present, knew is past tense, and then past participle is known. 3, we didn't buy the car because it was too expensive, but we would have bought it if it had been a little cheaper. 4, if they didn't go to her party, but if she had been, or like if she had been, is it have been? But if she had invited them, they would have gone. So moving on here. So not went, but gone. So go is present tense, past tense is went, and then gone is the past participle version of that. 5, I didn't know that Lee was in the hospital last week. If I had known, I would have visited him. 6, it was cold earlier, but we would have gone to the beach if it had been warmer. 7, I felt a little sick last night. I would have gone to the movies if I had felt better. 8, Hiroku didn't understand the homework. If he had listened to the teacher's instruction, he would have known what to do. Number 9, I'm sorry I was late. I forgot to set my alarm clock last night. I would have gotten to the meeting on time if the alarm clock had rung. So not rang is past tense. Rung is past participle, right? There might be an argument, people saying that rung is like a British, I guess you could say. I also thought it was British. So I think I can't really say this is true, but this is what I've noticed. A lot of our English, in American English specifically, the past participle will always be either the American version or it's British, like the British origin, because after all, Americans came from British, the great England, I guess you could say. So it's British English, and then it became American English when they set foot in America and basically won the war, etc. So I think that's a pattern I've been noticing. I can't really say for sure that the past participle will always be British English, but for the most, I see a lot. That's all I need to say. All right. So excellent job, everyone. You're doing a wonderful job. And as you can see here, I put EC on there because it's your extra credit. If you want to go ahead and do that, I will grade it, or we will have our TA grade it for you guys, and I'll provide the answers too. I think we've already finished. I lost track of time, so as I noticed already, it was gonna take a while. So what we're looking at is next week, or sorry, not next week, this Friday. We will continue and do exercise 5, exercise 6, skip that, exercise 8. It's a continuation of 8, yeah. 8 is pretty long. I didn't mark this because I was debating if we have time for class, we could probably do this, exchange answers with each other. So you don't need to ask your classmate. We can just read the topics and then we would talk together about what we would do in the situation. And then exercise 10 is an extra credit, extra credit, extra credit. If you want to write an essay and you want me to read, that's up to you. You don't have to. Exercise 13 is what we'll do on Friday. And then finally, exercise 15. So exercise 13 is unique because what I'll need you guys to do for next week before the start of class, exercise 13 is it will combine everything you learned. First, second, third conditional rules. So make sure you have your notes prepared, you know which one to use, and what tense will be properly used. Make sure you double check and listen to your answers twice to make sure it sounds and makes sense in the situation too. So this is going to be interesting for Friday, and then after class we'll play a game as usual. So thank you everyone for coming to class today. I'm really happy I was able to teach you guys third conditional. Expect Friday we will finish up third conditional and then all the other exercises. Submit anything on extra credit if you feel like it. You don't have to do all of them. It's just extra practices. And I wish you guys a wonderful day, evening, afternoon ahead of you. If you have any other questions, feel free to message me. I'm always around here. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure. I'm just gonna go ahead and turn off the stream right now.